All right, welcome everyone to our virtual lunch seminar today. I'm really excited to introduce Mike Bean. He is kind enough to offer his expertise to us today. He's got a really important topic that I know I'm interested in learning about. So let me just tell you a little bit about Mike. Mike Bean is the president and founder of Bean Media Production. He started this organization in 2006 as a video production company. And then in 2012, Bean Media became a full service digital marketing agency. Today, it's nationally recognized as an award-winning digital media marketing agency. They are also certified Google and Meta partners. Meta is Facebook and Instagram, in case you're not aware. And Mike earned his bachelor's degree in media production from the University of Buffalo. He's also the president of a local nonprofit networking group called Business Helping Business, which some of you are familiar with. So let's give Mike a nice warm welcome for being with us today.
Thank you.
And I will let Mike take it away.
All right, I will go ahead and get this presentation. Just move this off to the side. All right, good morning, everyone. Is my screen successfully being shared?
Yes, it is.
All right, great. So yeah, like Lindsay had said, and thank you once again for that kind opening. We're going to talk about some of the challengings of the landscape in digital marketing in 2022. We're essentially going to get to some of the fundamentals that we find as an agency that a lot of businesses really aren't paying attention to, maybe because it's a time issue or it's an intimidation issue, where it just feels too challenging to approach or attack. But we find that there's a lot of things that businesses can be doing to help themselves in the beginning phases. Oftentimes we end up tackling some of these things, but if we end up working with a company that already has some of these areas figured out, has already paid close attention to them, we're able to start executing on some of more advanced marketing sooner than later. So like Lindsay had said, my name is Mike Bean, president of Bean Media Productions. As she's mentioned, we got our start in video. A lot of what we did was TV advertising in the beginning. And in 2008, 2009, I was told by a sales rep at Channel 4 that they were told by corporate that television marketing was not necessarily in Buffalo's budget, and they should start selling banner ads. And I panicked because my income was reliant on producing television commercials. So we shifted gears and we moved more of our effort towards figuring out how do we get these great looking videos to be more easily found online for this effort we just begun. And video search engine optimization became one of the things that we were pioneers in. And that experience was a blessing in disguise, because a couple of years later, Google changed their algorithms in a pretty big way to more emulate what strategy was being used through the video SEO process. The more ethical approach to getting a video to rank became more of the fundamentals and the best practices for organic search engine optimization for not just video, but websites and web pages as a whole. And then that led towards us doing more SEO and then filling in some of the other spaces with all of the other necessary pieces that were helpful in making a business thrive online. So we're fortunate enough to be working with companies in almost every industry all over the country, and reaching as far out as Australia, actually, which is very exciting to us. So enough about me. One of the things I want to say is if you have any questions, just so we can get through this, this is an infinite topic and I could go on for hours and days talking about it. So if you have any questions so you don't forget them, if you can kindly put them in the chat, and then that way after I'm done, I can address any of those questions if I hadn't already answered them in the presentation. So what we're looking at today and what we're going to cover is, what does your digital home base look like? We spend a lot of time talking about their digital home base. What does your Google business look like? And what does Google think about your website? And what are your goals? When I talk about home base is very broad. It's essentially your website's the nucleus of that. However, any way that a prospective customer or client a partner can find you. It's in 2022, it's even greater than it ever has before. It extends out to all the different social media networks and even some of those niche networks that are very important to certain industries. So like I said, right now we're going to be sticking more to the website and Google, but home base is extremely important and sometimes gets neglected. So what we're going to start talking about is before you're spending any money on ads. Like I said before, if you can get your home base ready for your marketing partner or department, they can manage your investment without spending time cleaning up that digital home that I briefly touched on. There's a lot of different components that go into the advanced area, but like I said, without repeating myself too many times, if you are spending some time on some of the things that we're going to talk about today, you're going to have a better understanding of your baseline. You're going to have an better understanding on what's out there, what information is out there, whether it be on Google, whether it's on your website, and just be more comfortable and confident when either bringing in somebody from the outside as an agency, or if you're bringing somebody in to work internally. It's just going to make that effort more successful, so they can pretty much get started when they step into the relationship. So first thing we want to talk about is what does Google think about your business? Google attempts, as I was talking about before, they're refining their algorithms on a very regular basis, and they are trying to get weed out the fly-by-night efforts to best serve search results. Essentially, when Google started, they were saying, look, we want to provide the best answers, not the answers that are paid to be on the first position. We understand that that's kind of contradictory because there is the pay to play space at the top of those search results. However, the organic search results is kind of what we're focusing on today. Google, and why we're talking about Google is because they hold 90% of the search market, 8.5 billion searches per day. Those are worldwide statistics. I guess I was a little flexible with the Google holding 92%. The last number I saw was 91.9%. I took the liberty of rounding up. But the top key searches, keywords are Facebook, YouTube, and Amazon. And one of the things that we want to talk about a bit today is how I think the pandemic has certainly increased the way that people live their lives, with all of the things that you can think about that you have ordered over the last couple of years that you may have just gone to the store and purchased. It goes from services to your products, and Amazon has, and Facebook and YouTube and Google have all played a large role in that. And consumers, as I'm going to get to later on, are very interested in ads. They pretty much trained the public to immediately look at the reviews, the social proof. That stuff is going to be critically important to digital marketing moving forward, especially with so many people spending so much time and relying on what they're finding online day to day. So with that being said, is your Google Business Profile complete? So Google Business Profile is formerly known as Google My Business. And once again, like I said, Google likes to change things up. They like to make our lives interesting. We want to ask, how many geographical regions do you serve? Are they all listed in the Google Business Profile? In the past, it was limited to 7 locations, but now you can get more granular and you can have up to 20 different service areas, as they call them. There's a little bit of, depending on if you have a business that has a actual location, or if you service, like if you're, let's say, a CPA that goes to your clients' locations, but you don't necessarily have a physical address that customers can come and visit or clients can come and visit. So there are some different areas when it comes into configuring that some different techniques that you would change based on those nuances of your business. But you do want to make sure that you're taking advantage of all of those service areas, because when people are searching, X business near me, you're going to want your Google Business Profile to show up in front of them, but you're going to also want to make sure that they have the right information. So I want to kind of chop into some of the things that may sound very similar or simple or basic to a lot of you, but I don't want to just assume that this is just common knowledge for everyone, because it is for people in this industry. The first thing is, have you claimed your business? Just because your business is showing up under the Google business profiles doesn't necessarily mean it's been claimed by you. So you want to just pay some attention to not assume that somebody in the past has already taken care of that. There's a lot of businesses out there that Google has identified, and they will list the information that they have handy, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's accurate. And it doesn't mean that it's claimed by you and you have the control over it. So you want to make sure that that business has been claimed if you haven't already done so. And then, you can go in and look at that, and it'll say, do you own this business, right there in the Google search area. And you can, click on that. And, if you haven't done it already, you can go through some prompts, and it'll lead you towards verifying your business. That business you'll be able to verify that business depending on the status of it in a couple different ways. Oftentimes, if it's new and you're the first one to claim this business, or maybe you're taking this over from somebody who had inappropriately claimed it, you may have to have a postcard sent to the physical address that's going to give you a code to complete that process. But it doesn't mean that you can't start working on filling out that business profile while you're waiting for that postcard to arrive in the mail. Excuse me, dry mouth. What I would suggest is, if you haven't gone through any of this yet, that you do soon, because Google has announced that in some time, Google likes to be very secretive. Even John Mueller, the go-to expert that handles a lot of the public questions on the forums and things of that nature. I don't have his actual title handy. However, he tends to not really deliver a lot of direct answers. So they are saying, though, that in 2022, the business manager or the business profile manager will be limited to managers with more than one business profile. So that's if you have multiple businesses that you own, if you are an ad agency and you're managing business profiles for other companies, if you have different locations, things of that nature. That will still be available to you, but it's not going to be available to people who have one business profile. You're still going to be able to access that information and change that information through Maps and through the just the search field. But there are some upsides to using the profile manager, and one of them is checking to make sure that that business profile is complete. On the left-hand side of your home screen, once you're in your profile manager, you'll see just halfway down a wheel that will say 60%, 50%, 80%, whatever it may be. And it will show you what's left to do, what boxes have not been checked in Google's eyes. And you'll want to satisfy that. But just because that's satisfied, that doesn't mean you have done everything you can do. You can continually check in through your Google business profile. And there's a lot of things that we're going to touch on today, and things that we're not going to have time to touch on today that you can do It goes to the extent of advertising specials that you have, reacting to reviews. There's a lot of different things that you can use. So just because all of those boxes may be checked doesn't necessarily mean that your job is done. It's pretty much an infinite process. And I think that is one thing I probably should have started with as well, is that when it comes to any of this marketing, it really is an infinite process. And I'm just, like I said, going to do my best to touch on the basics and then be available for some questions after if I didn't touch on the question you were hoping to find. So with, like I said, that 80%, whatever it may be, if you don't see that section on the left-hand side, don't be concerned. That means that you've checked all the boxes. But you're going to want to go in and do some other things just to make sure that who's ever set that up in the past, if you're unfamiliar with it, do some research, because you're going to want to claim a business category. Look at what some of your competitors are doing and look at what their business classification or category is, has been selected. Is it popular? Is it a is it something that is search engine popular? So look and see if you're an attorney, go and see what the other attorneys that are like you are claiming as their primary business category. And then after you've identified what the best fit for that is, you have up to 9 secondary business categories that you're able to claim as well. And throughout that whole process, I would encourage you to just do some recon, look and see what other people are doing. Use some of the tools that I'm going to get into to see what keywords are popular within your industry, because you're going to want to make sure that you're thinking of a couple different things when you're setting this up. You're going to want to think about, yes, checking all the boxes that Google has. You're also going to want to make sure that it makes sense to your best customers. But you're also going to want to make sure that it's the bots are also recognizing what you're putting into that effort, because as important as everything is to your customers' eyes, it's equally as important that the bots that crawl Google are identifying with the information that you're giving them, and they're rewarding you for it. There's also some other things that you can do as far as adding relevant attributes, especially if you have some items that are in health and safety. There's different fields that you, like I said, as you're going through, you're going to check these separate fields out and just make sure that you're doing your best to let the public know all the different things that you have available. If you have, if you're accessible, if you have a lift because you're on a second floor. One of our clients deals with the aging population, and they have a wellness center. It's on the second floor. They have a chairlift that brings you up to to that floor. These are things that you're going to want to make sure that you include in your business profile. And one of the other things that you want to make sure that you're paying attention to is that you're adding that business open date. It's at the bottom on the right-hand side of the information page on Google Business Profile. And that's important because it shows that legacy. If you don't have that filled out, it doesn't give how long your business has been in operation. If you do have that filled out, it will say, this business has been around for 10 years, 5 years, 2 years, whatever it may be. Once again, that's just another area that you're not only just checking a box that makes Google happy, but it's also providing confidence to your potential customers and people who you could be doing business with. So reviews. Oh, one of the other things I wanted to get to before we get to the reviews is something that's not listed on this page. If you are in a service industry, another newer thing that Google is now doing are they're doing Google Screened. If anyone's seen this in like search queries for service professionals like CPAs, attorneys, things of that nature. That's a process that takes some time, but it's really well worth the value. It automatically sets you apart from people who haven't already been screened. There is some personal information that Google is going to ask of you to make sure that you got the certifications in the service that you claim to be an expert in. But that's a newer area that you're able to take advantage of. And a year ago, a very small percentage of people were taking advantage of it. Now it's starting to be more common. So this is another one of those things, like when I talked about taking advantage of the profile manager before it goes away. If you can get to becoming one of the Google screened professionals, that's also going to set you apart from some of the competition. The sooner you can get to that before the rest of the world does, or the rest of your competition does, the better position you're going to be in. So I want to move into reviews. Reviews are just extremely important. And as I talked about in the beginning with over the last couple of years, with the habits of people changing, Amazon being such a popular way to have things shipped right to your house, they've really kind of taken over the way that people look at the buying purchase. It's really only second nature to go right to the reviews and see what this company has to offer, what other people are saying about them, what kind of social proof is out there. Can I trust these people? So you're going to want to make sure that you're paying attention to those reviews because they're just really important to not only, once again, Google, but they're also very important to the public. So if you are paying attention to your reviews and you don't have a lot of them, I would, or maybe they're not all positive, which isn't a bad thing. I encourage you to ask for reviews. When you're asking for a review, it's can sometimes be a bit uncomfortable to say, hey, do you mind dropping in a note and telling the world how great we are? But I would encourage the best time for that is after you've just done something great for a company or a person, and craft a very customized, sincere message for that person in email. And there's a little video that's playing in here on the next slide. It fills the screen and you can see where to generate that link. But essentially generate that link in the Google Business Profile while it exists. Once it goes away, check back with me and I'll tell you how you're going to be able to create that link in the future. But for now, you're going to want to generate that link and craft that personal email. That's thanking that person for the opportunity to work with them and telling them, how you felt about the project and hoping they feel the same. And ask if they just take a few minutes to fill out a review, and here's a link. I would not advise to do this in bulk with sending out a mass email to everybody in your contact list. And make it generic. It just doesn't necessarily get the right response that I think you're looking for. And I think you're going to be much better off if you treat this process a bit more personal, more of a one-on-one conversation. Like I said earlier, though, not all reviews are going to be positive, and that's okay. And Google actually looks at that as, the pristine perfect is kind of improbable. So if you do get a negative review, respond to it. And not only the negative reviews, respond to all the reviews and try to do so in a timely fashion. And when you do so, do it in a positive brand voice. And I know if somebody's saying something about your company that's not true, it's a little challenging, but just try to go with that whole write it down on a piece of paper, what you'd like to say, and then type out what you should say kind of a thing. Just try to keep positive, and then encourage those people to, if they had a truly bad experience and this is legitimate, encourage them to take the conversation offline, encourage them to call you, encourage them to email you, whatever communication style you think is going to be best to hopefully relieve this. And then if maybe you get that person happy, then they can retract that bad review, or they can add a comment onto it saying, you know what, after second thought, company AYZ, they did a really, really good job after the fact, and now I'm completely happy. And the other thing I am going to want to get into is once you have accumulated these reviews is repurpose. We always talk repurpose. When it comes to video, when it comes to blogs, when it comes to really anything that you're spending some time on that can use more than one home, try to do your best at repurposing, especially your reviews, into like social media graphics, putting them on your website, all this social proof is really important. So why not share that what great things people are talking about you with some of the social proof. But before I get to there, I just did want to show this in a little bit larger of a screen. It's something we just pulled right from Google's website. But essentially, it's pretty straightforward to be able to generate this link to paste into that email when you're asking for those reviews from all these kind people that love your services so much. So when I talk about repurposing, leverage those glowing reviews on social media and your website and even on ads. So the example that we had given here was for a company who has a ton of glowing reviews, and we were running some ads for them and promoting their very unique pool floats. So this is just a nice little example on how you're able to use those reviews. And maybe you're not a designer, you don't have a designer on staff, but there's a lot of great tools out there that there's entry-level free versions like Canva, where you'd be able to recreate something similar to this. And like I said, use it on whatever social media platform that you choose is best. Putting it on a page of your website, putting these reviews into the footer of your website. These are all great ways of being able to really capitalize on all the great things that people are saying about you and what you've done for them. So I want to move into what does your website say about you? And we'd like to encourage everyone to allow your website to work for you. So there's a lot of things I think that people, a lot of times we'll see websites that only have 3 pages, kind of thinking simplicity is probably better. I don't like writing, don't know where to start. Well, I'm going to try to go into some tips and maybe make this process a little less complicated, a little less stressful. One of the things that we like to do when we're in marketing, why sell pain pills, not vitamins, is people are much more likely to react to easing a pain than they are to gaining something. So when you're writing content, think about how you can answer people in a way that you can ease their pain, because that can help. This digital space of your website can help with your day-to-day. It's not only going to help with probably cutting back some of those phone calls that you get time and time again, but it's also going to establish yourself as a trusted expert. As Google likes to talk about it, as in EAT: expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. So these are all things that you're going to want to think about when you're developing content for your website. Because if you're spending more time answering questions that your website can answer before someone ever picks up the phone, you're serving a few different purposes. You're serving the purpose of contributing to your website on a regular basis. We're also cutting down on the amount of time that your team needs to answer the same questions over and over. And I'd highly encourage you to engage your team. Whether it's a sales team, whether it's the people who are answering the phones every day, maybe those are the same people. And those are your FAQs. And you want to have a good conversation with them to really figure out what they are, to make sure that the information on your website, what you thought your FAQs were 5 years ago, may not really be the same frequently asked questions that you're seeing today. So if you have a page that is on the site, revisit it and make sure that they're still accurate, but then build from that. Work with your sales team to create a video series, create a list of these FAQs, and talk it through with whoever you think is going to be best on camera. And you don't need to bring in a professional video company. I mean, everybody's got a professional video camera in their pocket. So you can go ahead and do this yourself. Pick a quiet room in your office and make sure that the backdrop is it's appropriate. And just ask this question to the person who's appearing on camera, and see if they can answer it in a few sentences. And then take those videos, upload them to YouTube, and then get those embedded onto a video FAQ page on your website. This is going to do a number of things. It's going to help with answering these questions that we've talked about to free up your team and their time. It's also going to really help your organic search engine optimization. It's going to look good in the eyes of Google and your customer. Video is a component that people spend more time paying attention to than anything else online, and Google rewards that. So, like I said, there's things that you can do to accomplish more. We say, I guess we're not allowed to say killing two birds with one stone, but whatever we're allowed to say, we're allowed to accomplish multiple things with one effort. And any way that you can do that, things work smarter, not harder, is something that we would encourage you to do in some of these beginning stages as you're getting home base ready. So now we talked a little bit about some of those strategies, but we also want to talk about some of the other things about keep posting content. You're going to want to make sure you create a calendar. So you stick to posting at least 2 times per month. And these posts can be in all sorts of shapes and sizes and flavors. These pages can be, evergreen content. Like an example of that would be, we work with an emergency veterinarian clinic. They have a page that talks about what constitutes an emergency, because there's some things that they should be taking the people should be taking their animal to a regular vet versus coming in and seeing them, because they may answer the phone and say, well, that's actually something that's not an emergency. So they try to help identify what that is. Another one would be steps to take before our service rep shows up on site. These are all, once again, things that can inform you, inform the public, establish you as that credible expert. And it's also still keeping that content, moving in the right direction on a regular basis. But at some point you start to kind of stall out with creating this evergreen content. You're like, all right, well, I've created everything I can think of today. I need to make sure that I've got something else going up this week or next week. What else can I do? Blogs are a great way to post new content. It's an easy way to fit a new page in that doesn't disrupt the navigation of your site. It's not necessarily, like I said, distracting the workflow of the way that somebody's going through their customer journey. But it is satisfying the person who wants those more answers. It's satisfying the bots. And if you don't enjoy writing, try thinking about using list style posts, like top 5 reasons why. Top 5 reasons why you should make sure your Google profile is filled out. 8 reasons why stretching in the morning is, or maybe 8 things to do in the morning, or 3 things in the morning, whatever it may be. These are all things that are bite-sized. They're digestible by the consumer, and they know what to expect. So when they're searching for something and one of these blog posts shows up, they're going to say, all right, let me check that out. That shouldn't take too much of my time. Then they learn that from said company, and now you're on their radar. They want to go and they want to explore more. They want to search through their site, find some of that evergreen content, and ultimately get towards where we all want them to get, is converting into picking up a phone or filling out a contact form. So while you're doing all of this and you're writing this content, these are all things that you're going to want to think about SEO while you're writing. Beyond looking at your website through the lens of your best customer, think about what they search for. And there's free tools to guide and track your effort. So on here, and I'll go to the full screen here. This is a plugin that's available through Google Chrome browser. It's called Keywords Everywhere. And I highly recommend it, because if you look at the top here, how to maximize SEO on Google. On the right-hand side, that's where that widget or that plugin comes into play. It says right there, excuse me, find long tail keywords for how to maximize SEO on Google. And it's giving down below that the SEO difficulty. It's giving, which is, you're going to want to, when you're picking your SEO keywords, you're going to want to look for keywords that are not as difficult to rank for. but you also want to make sure that the volume is up. So it's creating a nice balance, and the more that you pay attention to this, the more familiar you're going to be with what relevant keywords your audiences are searching for, and which ones you should be weaving into your content that you're writing for your website. And then below that section where it's talking about the difficulty on page, off page. Oh, by the way, I'm sorry. Off page would be if you're running ads. So if you're running search ads and you're looking to appear for how to maximize SEO on Google, it's showing that the off page difficulty is 75 out of 100. And that's because there's a lot of companies, marketing companies out there trying to capture that information. But so that's good to know. But then the on-page difficulty is less than that. So that may be one of those that you're going to probably pay more for once you start getting to paying for search results. And you're going to want to try to get the best ranking possible in the non-paid results, if that makes sense. The other thing below that is the related keywords here. These are also giving you high volume keyword ideas on what other people have searched for. So these are alternate keywords that you can keep in mind, so you're not always using the same exact word over and over again. And you may identify some keywords that actually kind of fit into your sentence a bit better and are more popular than the one that you're initially searching. So like I said, you can get more comfortable with this. If you look in the top, there are some paid, you can't see where my hands are moving. There are some paid platforms, but I would say try to take a look at some of the free stuff that's out there first before you start to go in and pay for more like SEO tools and resources. So measuring your success. This is something that you're going to want to make sure that you're doing, from the very beginning. Before you get started, get comfortable with like Search Console, Google Analytics. Make sure that you've got all of these tools synced up to your website, and look at, before you start doing anything, what kind of volume are you getting through Search Console? What keywords are you ranking for? If you're not doing a great job and you haven't been paying a lot of attention to it, well, that's fine. That makes sense. But then set a goal and see, where would you like to be? We like to look at, when you're setting marketing goals, to look at them kind of like SMART goals. And I'm sure most of you are familiar with the specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-based goals. But it's kind of similar to if you're trying to lose 10 pounds, in a month. Well, maybe a better way of tracking that in a SMART goal world would be going to, eat out less, one time less a week as one of those goals. And I'm going to exercise 25 minutes a day, 4 days a week. And I'm going to do that for a month. So this way you're able to make sure that these goals are more bite-sized and you're getting to that main goal. I want to kind of look at that, the same kind of philosophy when you're tracking your KPIs. So if we're going to look and make kind of that same kind of analogy with your marketing, maybe your goal is to increase your organic traffic by 100% X amount of months, which is something that you'd be able to see through Google Analytics. Or you want to increase the total number of keywords that you're ranking for. And then that could be found in Google Search Console. And like I said, set those goals to make sure that you're going to achieve that. Make sure that you're putting X amount of pages up per week or per month or whatever it may be, into making sure that, like I said, you're getting that done. And then, like we talked about before, when you are ready to kind of move into that paid space, you're going to have a better idea on how long it took you to accomplish these goals. Have some expectations for your marketing department or your marketing partner. These are all things that are going to be super beneficial in the long term. So while we're measuring success, there's a number of different ways and a lot of different tools. There's the marketing funnel. There are things that we've designed to kind of check off the boxes of where we are in the process. But we've kind of felt that this marketing funnel is a bit outdated. It just kind of, the way that our mind wraps around it is, yes, we understand that awareness is at the top and you're trying to move down the bottom towards conversion and loyalty and advocacy. However, it kind of paints a picture that it starts to chop out part of your audience as you move down. And I understand that you can start to bring more of those people back into the top of the funnel with the right strategy. But as we started working more closely with HubSpot, we've really started to gravitate towards this graphic, which I think does a much better job of really displaying the infinite culture that marketing is. Like I said in the beginning, there's a million different things that we can discuss and we can talk about. But we like the fact that this is something that doesn't have necessarily a stop and a start. It's an ongoing process that constantly needs nurturing, constantly needs attention. And we feel it's a better way to look at your effort and your energy put into your marketing, in that it really never stops. And for that, that's really, really exciting, for us, because we enjoy the process. We enjoy the little mini victories. And I know it's not for everyone, but it's the competitor in all of us over here that really drives us into making sure that we're starting off with the set goal, and then we're shifting those goals as we move along in bite-sized pieces, and making sure that we're communicating back with whoever we're working with. So that's what I have put together, and I would imagine there's a lot of questions, and I tried to get through this as quickly as I could to leave some time for that. And this is my contact information, but I'd say let's take a look at the questions that are in the chat now. And Lindsay, in the past is, should I just check through all of these?
Yeah, well, we can certainly open it up. We have about 15 minutes. There are 2 questions in the chat right now. So we can start with those, and then if anyone else has more questions, you can just unmute yourself, or you can throw it in the chat.
Sure.
So it looks like our first question is thoughts on DuckDuckGo.
DuckDuckGo. Well, DuckDuckGo has got a lot of ads out there, and they have about 2% of the search market in the United States last time I checked. It has kind of changed. One of the things that have changed with some of the retargeting and remarketing that we're looking at with the change in cookie policy, and people being more concerned about having their privacy, having their privacy kept to themselves. It does change a little bit, but Google and Facebook have been on the path to figure out other ways to still bring in the right information to still capture the most appropriate audiences. So I think DuckDuckGo is a fine tool for the consumer. I guess, I don't know if it was Greg or Eric, or was it Amanda? I'm sorry, I forgot the new person's name. I apologize, I just met you. Did you want to elaborate on the DuckDuckGo, on what, or did I touch on?
No, you got it.
I got it. Okay.
I was curious because I have heard a lot of ads recently for DuckDuckGo, and and how that's going to point going forward with cookies and with being able to retarget and capture people's information. If that's, I've heard a lot of different things lately going on with
yes.
regards.
Yeah, and like I said, I think that it's it's something that's probably going to grow, but with Google and Facebook, Meta, however you want to talk about them, Alphabet, they've got answers to these problems before they exist. So as being with our Facebook status, we were all along the way getting prepared for everything we need to do as far as providing pixels and things of that nature. So there are answers to this more increase in privacy awareness. But just as of today, there's not a ton of traffic that, like I said, they're not being used as I think regularly as the ads are making it out to be, which is their job. They're trying to get a new product out.
Right.
The next one I see on here is how much info is too much info on a website. I have a tracker that tells me when people are on my website. Whenever I try to engage them in live chat, they will exit. I don't know exactly what this product is, but it could be a bot. It could also just be somebody who's tire kicking. So that is kind of common when people are just starting to enter into the sales process, that they really want to be left alone and they want to find as much information as they can. I would say how much information is too much information. I kind of try to lead with the show people how to tell time, not how the clock works. So if you can give these people as much information that would be relevant towards their buying process without maybe giving away the trade secret. But I think there are, in almost any industry, there are some things that you can encourage people to do. So for example, like if you're a plumber, if you have a blog that talks about how that maybe your bathroom sink doesn't need a plumber to come out, maybe you just need that little tool that's about a foot long that I think you could probably buy at the Dollar Tree for now $1.25. And you can pull this nasty clog of hair. I've got a lot of hair. My wife has long hair. We have dogs and cats, so I have I'm not new to that. But yeah, so like giving like a little bit of rope to these people, I think just shows authenticity. It shows that you're not trying to hide anything from them. And who knows, because you gave them that tip, that when they need you down the road, they are more likely to pick up a phone and call you because you solved the problem for them in the past.
Yeah, and Mike, could I just add on to that for a minute?
Yeah.
Speaking from my own experience, this is just me. If I'm on a site and I'm kind of just doing what you said, gathering data, doing some research, I might not be at a place where I'm ready to have a live chat. And, for me, the chat feature is great when I have an immediate need or like a burning question and I need something quick, right? But if I'm just sort of, I think I know what Larry does. I know he probably knows what I do. That's not necessarily like I need help right now. That's more of maybe I'm looking into coaching, I'm looking into training. What options are there? What do these people specialize in? So maybe the chat could be a little intrusive, or just they're not ready to have that discussion just yet. I don't know.
Yeah, and I would ask Larry, if you have the capability. I don't know if you're if you're have your mic on or whatever, but maybe the message that you're sending to them as well. If it's possibly if they're all of them are leaving. Maybe it's a changing of your message where it would be something more along lines of, when you're done looking through the website and you have any other questions, please feel free to either use this chat or call me, something like that. If you're okay with giving out the number or, providing an email, something like that, trying maybe a different approach. It's a little softer. In the case that they aren't bots, that they are actual people that maybe are exiting the site because they're like, hey, I don't want people watching what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly. So we have another question here from Tyson. You mentioned HubSpot. Do you recommend to your clients to engage with HubSpot, LinkedIn, Salesforce, etc., to implement elements of the market activities like response automation?
Yes, I do. And, whatever HubSpot is the one that we're most comfortable with. We have worked with Zoho. We've LinkedIn is another platform, that I wouldn't say that, HubSpot and LinkedIn should probably be compared to each other. But as I'm looking at this, Salesforce, we haven't done a ton of work with. However, one of my employees has worked with Salesforce in the past. But I encourage data. The more information that you can collect, the more power you're going to have in understanding what people are doing. HubSpot's got a lot of phenomenal tools to be able to automate, parts of the process, be able to make sure that money's not being left on the table, for the lack of a better term. So just depending on how detailed your business is, would depend on how much you need from HubSpot or something like that. And every industry is a little bit different, but some of these things can be automated. If especially there's certain information. If you're always picking up the phone and saying, yes, this is great, glad to have your information, we're going to send you out an enrollment packet. If some of that can be done through HubSpot, that's great, if it fits your culture. And if you have other questions about HubSpot, I can speak to that. My director of marketing, Jeremy, can probably answer more questions about that. And that's Tyson, I believe. So if you wanted to reach out, have any additional questions, please feel free to do that. But I would say anything that you can get to collect information, and then you would want to work with just like the whole process of making sure that you're not over automating.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. We have one more question in the chat. This is from Jill. She said her website and professional social media pages are currently in development for her new business. That's exciting. Does it make sense to start her Google business profile now?
Yeah, I would say go ahead. I guess, Jill, do you have a physical address?
Yes.
Okay. So I would say then, yeah, like I've said in the beginning, we don't know how long these tools are going to be available. So especially if it's something that you're new to, that business profile manager is going to give you more of a step-by-step guide through it, especially if you're brand new. So if the business doesn't already exist, then you're going to want to create one. If it already somehow is on Google's radar, then you want to go in and claim it right through the search. And then that will link you to the Google Profile Manager, the business profile manager. And like I said, because it's new, they're going to need to mail you a card that's going to have a verification code on it to make sure that that physical address exists. So I would say, yeah, get that ready, and then put the website in. Let this work for you while the other stuff is up and running. So kind of use this as your platform. I think you're in a great position to not get distracted by all of the other things that can catch the corner of your eye. So I would say to start to look at that and get some original photos. That was one of the other things I didn't mention before, is like try to stay away from stock photos. When you're starting to add photos, you can add videos in there. When you're filling out your company description, try once again to use that keywords everywhere to look at what are some of the keywords that are popular in your industry. So you're using the maximum amount of characters to describe your business. So like, don't go too heavy on the keywords, but do keep them in mind while you're writing that description. And like I said, if you want to bounce anything off of us, just feel free to send something to the email on the screen here. Sorry, I'm covering this up as I'm sharing the screen.
I got it. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have a few more minutes. If anyone else has a burning question or just something they want to talk to Mike about, feel free.
Yeah, the back and forth kind of stuff is is more of my bread and butter. I would say it's like doing presentations this way is exciting. In a room, you got to get a sense of breaking things up a little bit more. So please, if anybody has anything now they want to bring up, I'd be surprised if I don't have an answer. And if I don't, I can certainly get back to ask my director of marketing or our web developer.
Yeah, Mike, I mean, I kind of have a question.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm always curious, like any major watch outs, anything that you're seeing that businesses are doing that are kind of like mistakes, or like you get in there now you got to clean stuff up. I mean, anything we shouldn't be doing or we should be careful of?
Yeah, a couple of things that we've noticed recently is WordPress websites are on all-time high now when it comes to hacks. So I would suggest, I think WordPress is a phenomenal platform, but making sure that you've are taking some measures to, at the very least, have WordFence installed on your website. And paying attention to that. If you're seeing a lot of other attacks or attempts of logins that really concern you. A lot of hosting providers provide firewalls and other security measures. So that is something. The SSL, now it was a couple of years ago, was something that only certain businesses needed. Now it's something that very few businesses don't have. So that's something. There's also been a rise in fake Facebook copyright emails going out that we've noticed. So just because you get an email from Facebook, supposedly from Facebook, take a harder look at where it's really being sent from, because they're threatening to take down your page and things like that. So there's a lot more people up to no good lately, and it's unfortunate, but it is something that you don't want to ignore. So I'm kind of saying two things at once, like ignore the spammy emails about the Facebook, but also pay attention to the website. It's never a bad idea if you don't know, to just copy the content of the email into Google and seeing if because usually if you do that, all the content in the body of the email, right away it'll show up whether it's a scam or not. Those are some key ones. And I thought there's something else you mentioned that also triggered a thought, things to pay mind to.
I think it was just like when you do go in and work with clients, do you have to like rework things or clean things up? You talked about the digital home and like what gives you a lot of headaches?
Sure. It's usually the wanting to start yesterday. So that would be the one thing is I would say is that if you are thinking about working on marketing in 6 months and you've maybe felt that you've done everything you can, or this stuff still intimidates you, to try to prospect or reach out to someone further, like 6 months before you're actually ready to go, to start to at least let them audit what your existing home base looks like, and kind of give you a little bit of a cheat sheet on what you can work on yourself, or what maybe they can work on at a low level while you start to get ready. Because a lot of companies are really interested in saying, I want to start marketing today and I want results tomorrow. And you need to have a lot of content out there. And I would say also, just make sure that whatever social platforms that you are using, that you're using on a regular basis. And then, because if you're not, and they're just collecting dust, you may have to kind of take that look in the mirror and decide whether or not it's really worth having that presence or not.
Yeah, no, that's very, very fair. All right, well, it's a little after 1 here, so I will close out the meeting. Thanks everybody for joining us, taking some time out of your day. Thank you so much, Mike. This was very, very helpful. Appreciate it. And we do have some upcoming events. If you're not aware, we have our breakfast with BNSME on April 20th. That's a half an hour, just pure networking. Hop on if you want to. Our progressive networking dinner is April 25th. It's going to be at the Seneca Niagara Resort and Casino. It's always a really big hit. We did a progressive networking back in November, right before Thanksgiving. We're offering another opportunity for that. So you'll get to rotate 3 different times, 3 different tables, lots of business cards. Our Executive of the Year dinner is May 5th, and that's going to be really nice. We're honoring Rhonda Frederick from People Inc. So you won't want to miss that. And then we've got our installation dinner, May 24th at the Park Country Club. We'll be bringing in our new board and our new president, and Kate Glazer from Hope Rises will be our guest speaker, and she's got a wonderful organization that's doing great work around Buffalo. So excited to hear from her. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
And don't forget golf on June 10th.
Golf on June 10th. Okay, yes.
Thank
Thanks
you,
all.
everyone. I
Bye.
appreciate it. And thank you to those who sent me the message saying it was a nice presentation. I appreciate that. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Mike.